live on both platforms. It looks like we are. If you can please just give me an okay on YouTube and on Facebook, I would appreciate that. Okay, so let's see if you guys can hear okay, if you can see okay, and if you can, then we'll dive right into it. So just give me the cue. In the meantime, I see we have friends already joining us. Hi Patricia, hi Leonardo, hi Need to Know, good to have you back. Robert. In the meantime, if you can write where you're from, what your name is, just so we can see kind of the variety. We have people from all around the world. We have Kabbalist students, I'm sure. If you're in Kabbalah, say hi. We have students who are following us on social media. Let's just give it an okay that you guys can hear. I see that we're good on YouTube. Just let's make sure that we're okay on Facebook as well. So if you can just let me know that you guys can hear okay on Facebook, that would be great. In the meantime, I'll say we have Maria here, David, Marek from Germany, Lightning Girl, which I guess is Magdalena. Hi Magdalena. Bill from Arizona, Krit from India, Munever Akalin. Sorry, I'm probably pronouncing it wrong, so I apologize for that. So hopefully you can correct me. I'll be happy. Okay, so greetings from North Carolina, from Kelly. Great. So today we're going to have a fun session, a topic that I especially like, Kabbalistic music. I'm not a musician, but I love music and I appreciate music. And when I started studying Kabbalah 15 years ago, there were already a lot of Kabbalistic melodies available, but there weren't so many songs that were written by Kabbalah students, which were more like modern. And today there are many, and we're going to see some and hear some today. Okay, so I see we're good on both platforms. Let's dive into it. So I'm Gil Shear, and this is Kabbalah Explained Simply. And today we're going to try and explain simply the concept of Kabbalistic music. So we're going to talk about authentic Kabbalistic music. We're going to talk about modern Kabbalistic music a little bit. We're going to hear music. That's going to be fun. We're going to hear Kabbalistic tunes. So if you want to contribute in the chats, if you want to comment on anything you see or hear, I'd love to hear your feedback. Let's dive into it. Okay, so Kabbalistic music. All right, let's share my screen. Okay, so let's start off. Wait a minute, the first slide. Let's see. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, here we go. So above time and space. No, that's probably not the first slide. Here it is. The first slide, Kabbalistic music. So Kabbalistic music is a topic that I personally love because Kabbalists, they always write music as part of some kind of a spiritual expression. And when you start learning Kabbalah, then you begin to feel in the music something that's more powerful. I mean, music is always like people call it like a spiritual experience. And it stems from the fact that Kabbalistic music actually is written from a level of the spiritual worlds. So when Kabbalists write Kabbalistic music, Kabbalistic melodies, it's an inseparable part of their spiritual degree. Now, because you can't really have words of spiritual attainment, because you can't describe the color blue to someone that can't see. I mean, you can describe it, but they can't really grasp what it is. So similarly in spirituality, if you hear about Kabbalah, study Kabbalah, connect to Kabbalistic texts, it's all great, but it's still, until you don't feel it yourself, then it's kind of a philosophy. You don't really, it's not science yet. It becomes science when you develop the correct tool that you can start measuring yourself. But there is a little cheat to that, and that is Kabbalistic music, because Kabbalistic music connects directly to your emotional part, and that is really a direct link to the spiritual worlds. So let's talk about authentic Kabbalistic music and modern Kabbalistic music. So when I talk about authentic Kabbalistic music, basically I'm talking about music that was written by a Kabbalist, that wrote it from their spiritual attainment. So it doesn't matter if it was arranged in a modern way, and we'll see an example of an authentic Kabbalistic melody that was arranged in a classical way, and a melody that was arranged in a modern way with guitar and etc. So the authentic Kabbalistic music that we're referring to here isn't necessarily classical, meaning from the musical sense, but it's authentic since it was written by a Kabbalist that attained spirituality. And just like they write texts from their spiritual attainment, from being in direct contact with the upper force, then when they compose music, melodies, then they're doing it from the same spiritual state. The second kind is modern Kabbalistic music that's written by Kabbalah students. So, as you might know, in Kabu, in Bnei Baruch, we have thousands of students worldwide. Many of them are musicians, and over the years, they've created some beautiful, beautiful Kabbalistic songs. And I say Kabbalistic because the songs written by Kabbalah students, although their style is modern and rap or dance or rock, all modern styles of music, but they're written from the student's desire to sense the spiritual worlds. So, you probably know this on yourself. When you're inspired by something, then it's like this, something wants to burst out of you. So for our musician students, this usually bursts out in forms of songs, and we'll listen to some of those as well. I picked a couple, hopefully that you'll enjoy them. So let's dive into it. When we're talking about Kabbalistic music, we're talking about something that is completely above time and above space. The reason that is because Kabbalists, they attain forces. They don't attain matter. They attain the forces of reality. Now, these forces that they attain are from a different, you could say dimension, although it's misleading because dimensions can also relate to this world. You have 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, and if you include measuring time, you can measure 4 dimensions and multi-dimensions. So you could say that they're talking, when Kabbalists attain these forces, they're talking about a completely different realm of reality. Not an extension of this reality, not like looking with a microscope and seeing more things, but looking with a completely different measuring device. And that's through that spiritual sense. So let's take a look for a second at the drawing board, which hopefully I have open here. Do I see it? I do not see it. I do not have a drawing board. Let's give it, say, 10 seconds to troubleshoot. And if we don't get it done by then we will skip the drawing, and I'll try and describe it to you with words, and you'll try and feel it. Okay, has it been 10 seconds? It hasn't yet. I know, I've been counting. Okay, there we go. Okay, so that was 10 seconds. Cleaner. All right. Oh, and it has me in it as well. So when Kabbalists connect to a spiritual sense, basically what it means is this. So imagine reality. Imagine this is you, and you're like a black box. Right? And as a black box, you have 5 openings to the reality that is outside of you. Right? What are these openings? These are 5 senses. So you have sense of smell, taste, touch, sight, and hearing, right? So all these five senses, they depict some kind of reality, right? And for those of you who've already studied fundamentals, then you know I'm talking about perception of reality. So we perceive reality through these five senses. Now, if you think about it, we don't really know what's outside. We don't really know what goes on here, because we have no way of directly connecting to it. All we do is we perceive it through these senses. And these senses are really, they're not openings, they're a kind of filter, right? So when you see something, it goes through some kind of filter, a mechanism of sight, and when you hear something, it goes through your eardrum, and all these things are really filtering out what is really outside here. So we can't really know what's outside. Now imagine for a second you were a dog or a snake or a bird. Imagine how you would perceive the same reality that we're in now. So a dog through smell mainly, and a snake through thermal, through heat, etc. So we really don't know what reality is. We just know that the way it seems to us, the way we see it, is based on some kind of mechanism, which are our five senses, which filter out what's outside of us. Now, Kabbalists say that what is outside of us is actually light. Now, what is light? That's a bit abstract. So imagine the ultimate force of pleasure, fulfillment, harmony, balance. Imagine all the goodness that you can. Put it to the power of a million, that's a drop of light. Okay, that's how Kabbalists describe it. So that's what's really outside of us. Now, we don't perceive it because we don't have the correct measuring devices. Just like if I don't have a phone, then I won't be able to perceive the cellular waves that are right here in the room with me. Or if I don't have a radio receiver, then I won't be able to tune in to the radio waves that are right here in this room. They're here, but I can't hear any music now because I don't have my radio turned on. So it's the exact same thing here. There is beautiful, amazing, incredible fulfillment, incredible light that's outside of us. Only if we don't perceive it, it's because we lack the sense. Now, the wisdom of Kabbalah is the wisdom of developing that exact sense. Let's call it, well, I don't want to call it the sixth sense because that's confusing, because you might think that it's similar to the five senses, but it's an additional sense. No, it's a completely different sense. Let's call it just a spiritual sense, okay? And basically what this sense is, it's a connection to this force in a way that's not filtered, you could say. It has some filtering to it, but it's a different kind of filter. It's a filter that enables the light to enter it without it inverting its form, without it seeming to us as the world we see around us as negative, etc. So this is the Kabbalistic sense. And this sense is above time, it's above space. Through this sense, you perceive a reality that is not limited to the restrictions of this world, like I said, time and space. So you can experience the past, the present, the future, all in a single state, because past, present, and future are according to the way we measure in this world, according to our senses. And even Einstein found that these are all relative. So if you travel fast enough, then your time in comparison to someone that's not traveling fast will go very, very, very slow. You could be in a spaceship for a minute, and on Earth, 100 years or 1,000 years will pass, meaning that too, scientists finding is relative. So Kabbalah is equivalent, let's say, if you want the physics example, to traveling at the speed of light, where time completely stops, you could say, where there is no concept of time. Okay, and the reason why I'm telling you this kind of intro to Kabbalah right now is because it's important to understand how it's connected to Kabbalistic music. Because when Kabbalists, when they write Kabbalistic music, they're actually writing it from this sense. So they connected to this light, and there are a few levels of connection, 125 you could say, 125 different layers of this connection, each time having greater and greater connection to that light, until the 125th degree is already becoming one with that light, completely in equivalence to it. It's becoming one with that force. It's becoming like that force. Because in Kabbalah, you learn how to become like this force. You don't learn how to receive from it only, but you learn how to be equivalent to it. So every one of these spiritual degrees is some kind of connection to that force. And Kabbalistic music is actually a direct emotional representation from a Kabbalist that has attained that force. So I'm talking about authentic Kabbalistic music. So that's why it's completely above time and it's completely above space. So then how can you really, yeah, we've done that. Okay, so now that leads to the question, how can you really describe something that can't be seen or touched? See, that question is even on the screen. So seriously, though, how can you describe something if you can't sense it, if you can't see it, if you can't touch it? If it's above time, if it's above space, then how can you even describe it? So that's exactly where Kabbalistic music steps in, and it enables us to sense things that are just beyond words. You could say it's a direct connection to the soul. Now, before I move on to the next slide, which, well, a direct connection to the soul. I actually want to play a Kabbalistic tune for you, and we're still going to learn more that will give you more depth to it, but I just want you to try and feel in this melody, which is an authentic Kabbalistic melody. I want you to try, it's a melody from Baal HaSulam, it's called Krivuli, and I want you to try and feel the emotions the Kabbalist is writing from. They're not all happy emotions. They're happy, they're sad, they're this dance of life that combines these two forces. We'll talk more about that in a moment. But first, I just want you to try and experience it and really connect, try and connect to that place the Kabbalist is writing from his attainment of a new dimension, a new layer of reality. Okay, so let's go for it. Let's see if this works. Okay, so hopefully you enjoyed that piece. I can see that you're writing in the chat that it's beautiful, calm, loving, transporting, a true bliss. Yes, I agree. Let's try now go a bit deeper into what's behind this music, not this song specifically, but in general. So let's continue here. So basically, when you read Kabbalistic text, and I'm sure many of you already have, then text, it writes about different actions that you need to perform, like with your desires, like you work with a screen and it describes the reshimot, it describes the structure of the partzuf that you build in your soul, it describes the structure of the 10 sephirot, of the spiritual world, of the tree of life, right? So if you it's kind of like a manual. Of course, the manual is written from spiritual attainment by a Kabbalist, and when we start using it, then we still do not attain what he attained, but at least the words there, they describe that kind of mechanism that we want to build inside ourselves. Now, it's very difficult to convey through text this sensation, this emotion, right? Because, again, it's like the example I used before. It's like trying to explain to someone blind what the color blue is. And it's going to be very difficult. Just do this exercise for a second. Try and think how you would now explain to someone that has never seen the color blue in their lives, and you have, and you're looking at it now, and you're trying to describe to them what that color is. It's tricky, in the beginning it's like, yeah, I can do that, and then wait a minute, but what words do you use, so you can use maybe emotions, that it's calming, or that it's relaxing, or that it's, but it's actually quite hard. It's actually impossible, because the person you're trying to describe to lacks these tools. So you can write anything you want from your perception, and it will all be correct and accurate according to how you perceive it, but it will be very difficult for someone that does not see that color himself to read what you're writing, and to experience that color too. Now, let's say instead you say, all right, I can't explain what their color blue is. I can't. But when I look at their color blue, then this is what I feel. And then you play this melody to them, which you wrote from the depth of understanding what their color blue is. So that's something, it's a more powerful, you could say in some ways, and more direct connection to sensing what the Kabbalists who are in connection with that light, how they experience it, right? So you could say that in music, you're expressing this spiritual sensation that comes directly from the heart. It's not clothed in words or explanations. It's not some technical representation of a structure. It's simply a direct emotional connection, emotional experience that a Kabbalist goes through, that he documents in a form of melody. Now, as you might have sensed in this tune that we listen to now, then in Kabbalistic songs, authentic Kabbalistic songs, there are always two states in parallel. So there's a state of agony and a state of delight, a state of upliftment. And these two states, they always exist in parallel. Now, what's going on there? Now, the feeling of agony comes from a Kabbalah sensation that he's apart from the Creator, right? It's like, it's more a kind of prayer or a weep for crying for greater connection. Because if we're talking about this, then until one reaches 125 degrees, then there's always separation from that force. So let's say one has reached the 100th degree. He's still 25 degrees separate from that force, right? So the sensation of agony, of pain, of even this sadness is actually an expression, a prayer of the Kabbalistic desire to come closer to the upper force. But it never comes just as that agony, just as that pain. It always comes together with upliftment and delight, because this is the sensation of being able to come close to the Creator, of being in contact, even if from the backside, even if being in contact as an understanding that one is not in full contact yet, that already is contact. Because knowing that you're not in complete revelation is already some kind of connection with that force. And this understanding and this joy of what is already being attained, of that sensation that a Kabbalist already perceives of that Creator, that's expressed in joy, in thanksgiving, in upliftment. And I think from the tune that we heard now, you can play it back later again when we finish the video, then I think if you listen to it, then you'll be able to distinctively identify these two forces like dancing with each other. And by the way, in Kabbalah, these forces always dance with each other, because only one force is death. You know, if it's just straight, we know what that means. But if it's constant, this constant up and down and positive and negative and plus and minus and agony and upliftment, that's life. It's like a beating heart. It's like livelihood. And that's why Kabbalists, they're always young in spirit, because they're constantly in this dance between these two forces. And the connection of these two forces is called in Kabbalah sweetening of judgments. So sweetening of judgments, here it is, sweetening of judgments. It's when these two moods that unify together with the force of nature. So let's maybe listen to another Kabbalistic tune, or maybe let's do one more point, and then actually let's go into questions now, and then we'll do one more point and a song, and then maybe some more questions and another song. It's going to be fun. I heard a melody, question from Daniel. I heard a melody which each note was giving birth to families of notes. I'm not sure what you're referring to, Daniel, but yes, every the spirituality isn't in Kabbalistic music, isn't in a single note, because a single note, you know, it's like the Kabbalistic text. Take every single letter, it's a letter, but when you connect them together, then it builds this state. Similar in music, it's not the single individual notes, but it's the composition of them together. The music touches my heart. A comment from Manuel. This music touches my heart and even moves me, but I would like it if that sort of music softened the heart to connect more with life without the interference of mind. Absolutely, Manuel. When you connect to a Kabbalistic tune, you can completely turn off your mind. You can just put it on mute, and you can just connect emotionally, connect with your heart. That's actually the last point that I wanted to convey. So maybe I will do that just in relation to your question. So you just need to listen. Sit back, relax, and listen to what the Kabbalist has been writing, right? Composing, that is. And by that, you just connect to the spiritual roots. All right, I already talked about that the notes, they're not random notes, they're not free form. The harmony in them is built on Kabbalistic rules, and the formation of the notes is according to the structure of the soul. So it's not just some random melody that sounds nice to the ears. No, the structure, the connection between the different notes in the tune, they're building this structure which is similar to how the soul is built. Let's keep going with questions. But Marek is asking, but my heart must still be tuned to letting the Kabbalistic music in, I guess. Absolutely. As with everything, it all depends on your vessel, right? It all depends. Rabash says that the the light is like a vast sea. Some take of it with a thimble, and some take with a bucket. So, Kabbalistic tune is written, but the tunes that we listen to, that we'll listen to in a second, is written from a very high spiritual degree, and there are multiple levels of spirituality that you can connect to by listening to it, and it all depends on your calibration. Are you tuning into the right frequency, just like with a radio? So the frequency is there. Are you tuning in? And if you are, to what extent? How calibrated are you? How precise are you into tuning into that current frequency? Can a Kabbalistic song tune a person? Thanks, David. Yes, it can tune a person, actually. There is a story about a Kabbalist. I don't remember his name, but it's a known story. And he was down. He was in a descent, and he lived in Safad. And there was a group of musicians there, street musicians, who used to play on the street. And they inspired him, they awakened him towards spirituality, even though their songs were just from simple musicians, street musicians. And when he was down spiritually, he went to the street and he gave them all of his money so that they'll play for him. Because when he connected to that music, it uplifted him to a spiritual state. So yes, absolutely, Kabbalah can get a person to tune in. I also want to share a quote from Kabbalist Dr. Michael Lightman. Someone actually who's listening just sent this to me right now, so I don't have it prepared on the slide. I'll just read it from the message that I just got. It's a beautiful quote. So Dr. Lightman says this: music is a language, only it's more abstract than words. Therefore, it touches the heart without any intellect, only emotional. And that's why the emotion gets greater impressions from it, because it's not limited by the mind. And that is music. It is a very special language that exists on all levels of matter, also on the still and the vegetative and the animate. We see how they too have this language, this song of theirs, even more so among human beings. So thank you to Asaf for sending that to me. Let's keep going. Let's listen to another tune and then we'll go into more questions. So this time I want to play to you another authentic tune. We'll get to the modern student songs too in this session, because there are a few awesome songs that I want to play you. But for now, I want us to listen to a more modern arrangement of the authentic melody. So this is Baal HaSulam's Krivuli. It's actually the same melody we heard before, but it's a completely different arrangement, a different style. And try and also connect to this tune, to this melody, with everything that we spoke about now. So if we want to quickly recap, then when you listen to it, try and connect to this sensation that's above time and space. Try and connect directly to your soul. Try and feel the two opposite states in it, this state of agony and desire and prayer to come closer to the Creator, together with a state of upliftment and joy of being already in connection with this upper force, tuning in to something that's above time, that's above space, to what the Kabbalists sensed as a spiritual state. So try and sense all these things. Pretty simple. Try and sense all these things in the tune we're going to listen to now. Okay. Okay, I'd love to actually hear how you felt it, what your impression was from listening to these two songs actually. So if you can write in the chat if you were able to kind of connect to a deeper layer or not, and if you did, what did you feel? How did you experience it? So I'd love to look at the chat and see how you guys felt it. So please do that. In the meantime, I'll go on to some more questions. So Carl Guerin, will I ever be able to write these melodies as I advance? Absolutely, Carl, and you can write them from now, from being a Kabbalah student, and we'll see in a few minutes examples of amazing, beautiful, uplifting songs that were written by Kabbalistic students, some of them totally new, some of them more advanced, and they express the students' desire to reach that level. And although they're not written from spiritual attainment, they're still uplifting and powerful, and they can also bring a person from a state of disconnection to connection. And I myself many times listen to the songs that my friends, Kabbalah students, have made over the years, and it always uplifts me and brings me back to a positive state. So absolutely, you can start writing music from now. Need to know is asking. Gil, structure is order out of chaos. You could say it's making order out of chaos. You could say that. In a way, there is no chaos in reality. There is, oops. Close the drawing board. That was a bit chaotic of me. Ha ha. All right, there we go. Order. Back to order. Okay. There is no real chaos. Chaos is simply lack of understanding of laws, of mechanisms. So, you know, if I draw to you, you know, these 4 dots here, and I tell you, you know, what are they? So you could have 1,000 ideas of what they are. You probably won't propose what I have in mind, and I have in mind that these are actually the points where a table's legs hit the ground. You know, so you have this table here, and this is where the table hits the ground. Now, imagine having this with only 2 dots, or 1 dot, or 10, or 100 dots. It would seem chaotic, but it's simply from lack of understanding of the bigger picture, of a higher dimension, you could say. So really, Kabbalah, not just Kabbalistic music, but Kabbalah in general, it doesn't turn chaos into order. It simply connects the dots. That's all it is. It simply, you know, it's like you put on these glasses suddenly, and then you see how things connect. So were they not connected before? They were. You just weren't wearing the right glasses. So not wearing the glasses, it seems chaotic. Put them on, and suddenly you see order. And every time you'll see chaos, and then you'll make a slight addition, increasement of your spiritual degree, and then you'll see order again, and then you'll see chaos on an even deeper level, and then again you'll see order. It's fun. Okay. Let's keep going. How were they able to write music back then? A question from Vidono. Well, you didn't need to have necessarily a computer or a guitar to write music. You could just have a piece of paper and basic understanding of melodies and notes, and that's what they did. Many Kabbalists in the past, they composed tunes like there were tunes 1,000 years ago. Kabbalists did the same, and there are many, many Kabbalistic tunes, many, many Kabbalistic songs from different Kabbalists. There are many songs that are related to the Sabbath, to Shabbat. Shabbat is not a day of the week. It is as well, but when Kabbalists talk about this day of Sabbath, Shabbat, they're talking about a day of rest, not that you go to sleep and chill. That's nice too, but that's not what Sabbath talks about. Shabbat, it talks about rest from the ego, from being controlled by the ego. That's a Shabbat. So many of their songs are related to that, are related to the Shabbat, to the entry of the Shabbat, to the exit of the Shabbat, to the state that a person is resting from being controlled by his ego. Was Baal HaSulam a musician? Daniel Elfasi is asking. Baal HaSulam was a Kabbalist. So a Kabbalist is many things. He's a scientist. You could say because Kabbalah contains in it all the wisdom of this world, it's contained in it. So he wasn't a musician that he grew up necessarily, that he was a musician and then he found Kabbalah and then he expressed it. No. All Kabbalists, or many of them, when they attain spirituality, they suddenly have this urge to create music as well, because it's a form of expression of connection to spirituality. So you don't necessarily have to have musical tendencies to write a Kabbalistic melody. You need to be connected to the upper force. And then if you are, then you can write a melody which represents your interaction with this force. Okay, there are some more questions here. I actually want to take a slight pause, and I want to go on to modern Kabbalistic music, which is written by our students of Kabbalist, students who study from Dr. Michael Lightman, and there are beautiful songs, all kinds. Actually, we can post a link here in the chat to our SoundCloud channel. Rachel will post it in the chat, so you can check out there. We have heaps of songs, beautiful, all styles. And you could say one of the beautiful things about students who write songs is that it's always built from connection, and it increases connection. So when Kabbalah students write a song, then it represents usually their desire to reach spirituality, to be in connection with the teachers, with the Kabbalists, etc. But when students get together to write a song, then something really beautiful happens, because what they're actually doing is they're doing it with the intention to reconstruct the collective soul. So, if we're looking at this for a sec, then, as some of you might know, there was only one collective soul created, the soul of Adam. If you've been following Kabbalah Explained Simply, then you've probably seen this dozens of times. And the only thing that's ruined in reality, the only thing that is preventing you from being directly connected to the spiritual worlds, to the light, is only one thing, and that is the shattering of this soul. This soul shattered, and today in our world, almost 8 billion of us, we're each pieces of this shattered soul. We all have a piece of that in us. And when Kabbalah students connect together to write a song, then they're starting to construct this structure of the collective soul. That's what they're starting to build between them. And that adds much more strength and power into that song, because the song stems from connection, from wanting to resemble this. And then it's not only a nice song melodically speaking, musically speaking, but it's also powerful because you can feel the desire for a connection with each other and with the upper force in that song. So I want to play a song to you. It's actually a different style than you might expect from a Kabbalistic melody. It's not authentic Kabbalistic melody, meaning it's not written by Baal HaSulam or by a Rabash or by a Kabbalist. It's written by Kabbalah students who want to reach that state, who want to be as Kabbalists. And let's take a look at it.
our shoulders, hearts no longer colder. Yeah, we getting bolder out there in the press. Not for the beef, but for the truth. Nonetheless, we the best, and invite all the rest to come join. To the point of no return, just a flip of a coin. I'm not talking head to tail, son, it's deeper than that. We the light seekers, and it's deeper than rap. What?
We came here to be as one. We came here to be together. No matter where you're from, join hands and be together. We came to be as one. We came here to be together. No matter where you're from, join hands and be together. Oh, be together.
Es tiempo de soltar tacha que lo siente. Y hora de unir tacha que reviente. Amor reclamado, amor por tu hermano. Yeah, solo amor.
Unity will save us, it was love that made us. We've been working for the ego, but it never paid us. We were once one, now we're reconnected. Love your neighbor as yourself, now it's in the making.
We came here to be as one. We came here to be together. No matter where you're from, join hands and be together. We came to be as one. We came here to be together. No matter where you're from, join hands and be together. Oh, be together.
Смотрим друг на друга, указывая пальцем. Кто ты, кто я в этой жизни танца. улыбаемся, строим разные гримасы с надеждою однажды разглядеть прекрасное.
להיות אחד, להיות חופשי מעל מעבר לעצמי, ואין אתה ואין אני, הכל בינינו זה רק מי שמחבר פה את הכל. הוא האחד, הוא העגול, והוא קורא לנו לגדול, נחזיק חזק ולא ניפול. נה 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 נה
I love that song, not just the tune and the rap, which is awesome, but also the different languages, the diversity, and the strong desire of connection that's felt from the musicians that created this. I know all of them, they're all friends of mine, and I know their strong desire for connection, and it's really felt in that song. Let's take on some more questions before we wrap up. So first of all, questions about where can you find these songs. So Rachel is posting in the chat a link to our SoundCloud channel. It's BBNA Music on SoundCloud. So Rachel is posting it in the chat so you can see it there. There you can find these songs and many, many more. So that's for all of you who are wondering where to find this. Another question from Daniel Atafua. He says, I'm enjoying this, sir, but how can we get more of these tunes? That's a good question, and it's a good kind of desire to get more out of it. It's egoistic, but it's good egoistic because it's driving you to maximize towards spirituality, and that's good. So the way you can get more out of this, and actually more out of all Kabbalistic tools, you could say, like the Kabbalistic text, even these lessons now that are in these Kabbalah Explained Simply, or anything that you're connecting to on our channels. And really the way that you can get the most out of these is if you start connecting it actually relates to the soul of Adam Harishon. So let me just pop back to that for a second. So let's say, where's the question? I lost it. Can we just have an undo so I can see the name of the person that asked? Okay, so sorry, I lost your name here. So let's say this is you. If someone can write to me the name of the asker, that would be good. So let's say you're here. And you want to connect to a Kabbalistic melody, to Kabbalah text, to any of that. Now, if you do that through, you know what, let's put you here on the side to start with, don't worry. So let's say this is you over here. Now, the only way you can get anything from Kabbalah is if you start tuning in to this point inside of you. Not the egoistic desires that you have naturally, desires for food, for sex, for power, for knowledge, for family, for shelter, all of these animalistic and social desires, which are all over and they're corporeal. So not through them, but if you start calibrating, if you start listening and being sensitive to that point inside of you, that same point that, this one over here, right? So that same point that is pulling you to find something greater. Now, if you connect through this point and you try and connect to the spiritual world through here, that's fine to start with, and you will get something out of it. You will get some kind of sensation and emotion. But if you want to optimize that, if you want to increase that, then what you should do is you should start trying and connecting your point to additional points. Because by doing that, you're starting to perceive not just through your point, but also through theirs. So instead of connecting to the spiritual worlds, to the spiritual reality through just a tiny drop, then you start connecting through a vessel. And this vessel is your connection with others that also want to attain this. So each one, instead of going and trying to reach this directly, then they decide that they'll do it together. And then the power of each of them is multiplied. So then you connect to Canon, and Canon connects to David, and David connects to Fatima, and Fatima connects to Jessica. And all of you are starting to connect here, but not just to connect for the sake of connection. You know, that we have plenty of that in this world. Criminals do that too when they go to rob a bank. They connect to each other. So we're talking about a different kind of connection here. We're talking about a connection for the sake of connecting to this incredible force of nature. And by doing it, by connecting to that force of nature, not trying directly, you and this force, but through other people who also want to attain this force, then you start building a kli. So if you're wondering how to do that, then I will say that for that we have, first of all, you can connect here weekly. This is also kind of an environment with people who also came here to find this connection, to build this connection. I can see with all the love that you're sharing here in the chats and the likes and on YouTube and on Facebook. So this is also an environment. If you want something that's more structured, more serious, then you can sign up to Kabballah. That's our online learning platform, our online community where students who want to take their studies to the next level, then they join. We have thousands of students in Kabballah. Many of them are here now on this session. So you're welcome to join there as well. Okay, let's see more questions that we have. Wow, there are so many questions. It's beautiful. Unfortunately, I won't be able to answer all of them, but let's maybe take one more question. A question from Marek. Can bad music close the heart? Not in regards to the lyrics, but the types of tones. that's a good question, Marek. I'll say this. There is no bad Kabbalistic music, because Kabbalistic music is always written from spiritual attainment, and it's always written from a higher degree. So authentic Kabbalistic music, it's impossible that it closes the heart. Now, can there be music that closes the heart? Probably, just like there are other things that can close your heart. We're exposed on a daily basis to thousands of inputs, thousands and thousands. I even read an article once that says we are exposed to up to 3,000 advertisements a day from different, driving on the street and seeing billboards and seeing this on your computer and your phone. And every tiny thing that you're exposed to influences you, whether you like it or not. So, there are some people who say, yeah, I watch these ads, but I'm not influenced by it. That's impossible, psychologically impossible, because anything that you're exposed to triggers something in your mind. Now, it can trigger this reaction or an opposite reaction. Okay, we're not going to get into those details, but anything that you expose yourself to, and I mean anything, influences you on some level. So now the question is, what do you want to be influenced by? Right? So if you want to be a really good painter, then you'll influence yourself with things that are relevant to that topic, and the more the better. And if you want to be a Kabbalist, then you want to influence yourself with things that are promoting, that are encouraging you to reach spirituality, that will inspire you to that will help you attain your goal. So I would say yes, there are things that can have negative impact, and I can't tell you what exactly, because there are many things out there in the world that could have negative impact. But I can say for sure that anything that's authentic Kabbalah, and everything on our channels is authentic, songs, authentic text on our website, etc. I'm not saying it's the only place where there's authentic. I just say that on our sites I can guarantee that it is. Outside of our websites there are millions of things I don't know, I can't say. But there you will definitely find authentic writings, texts, musics, melodies, etc. And those will always influence you for the positive. So I think we'll have to sign out by now. We're a bit going overtime today. I hope you enjoyed it. Maybe we'll listen to one more song. Let's see what else I have here. Actually, it's a song that was sung in our World Kabbalah Convention in Tel Aviv, sung by two lovely ladies who also study Kabbalah, Sivan and Yehudit. It's a fun song. It's a song that was written, again, to express joy, the joy in a person, joy that comes from finding spirituality. So let's play this song and let's just try and feel the atmosphere. It's from a World Kabbalah Convention. It's in one of the evenings there. I think there were like 8,000 people in the hall here from over 100 different countries, and it's just a beautiful experience. So let's just try and connect to that sensation there.
שחררי את השליטה, שחררי את הכבלים, ואחרי הנחיתה אולי תרגישי מה נעים כשתחשבי על אנשים, תחשבי על העבר, אל תתפתי לדיבורים שעושים את זה נורא, ותחשבי שמח, וזה מה שקורה לך באמת. תחשבי שמח ותאירי את הירח באורך, תחשבי שמח, תשחררי את העצבים פעם 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 שלא משרתים אותך יותר, פעם פעם פעם, ואם קשה לך לפעמים אז תתחילי לדבר, את מחלקת הצעות פעם 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 לכל המשתתפים.
Shacharu Sameach means let the happiness loose, let it go wild. So hopefully this session enables you to connect to Kabbalistic music, to understanding what it means. You can check out our songs. I see Rachel posted the Baal HaSulam melodies in the chat, so you can listen to that. You can go to our SoundCloud channel for modern Kabbalistic music. And hopefully you got a lot out of this session, and you'll be able to listen to Kabbalistic music not as just some form of entertainment, but actually as a form of connecting to spirituality. So thank you very much for participating. Awesome questions. Unfortunately, I didn't get to them all, but if you post them in the comments section, then I will answer them in the chats later on. So I'm Gil Shear, this is Kabbalah Explained Simply, and today we spoke about Kabbalistic music. If you enjoyed the session, please like and subscribe. It helps YouTube and Facebook know that it's good and it shows it to more people. So see you later.